like you said, I'm with the Second Obey Democratic Socialists of America. We are a left-wing socialist grassroots movement dedicated to anti-capitalism and, most importantly, anti-authoritarianism, and we are against kings, or would-be kings, like Donald Trump.
Yeah!
Our society is overrun with corporate control, and that both established political parties are corrupt, and you already agree with 80% of what we stand for. Before I say anything else, I want to thank Bay City Resistance for organizing this event. I speak not just for our DSA chapter, but also for myself when I say that I am deeply honored to be here. Everyone here at the No Kings protest all across the country today should be proud to stand against fascism.
Yeah!
For a pivotal moment in the history of this country that will define this nation for years to come. It has been said that there are years where nothing happens and days where years happen, and we are living during the days where years happen. It hasn't even been a year of this administration, yet it has already gutted countless government agencies and done so much damage to this country that it will take decades to pick up the pieces. Since the last No Kings protest in June, the One Big Beautiful Bill passed, which cut $1.2 trillion for Medicaid and SNAP, among other rollbacks. Meanwhile, that same bill allocated more funding to ICE than any federal law enforcement agency has ever had in the history of this nation.
Boo!
ICE now has more funding than entire military budgets of countries like Turkey, Spain, and Iran. ICE has been using that new funding to terrorize U.S. cities, disappearing people in broad daylight via unmarked vans on the streets, breaking into people's homes, acting unlawfully like Trump's own prepared military to do his
Go Mercy!
It seems like they can't get enough of cutting our health care benefits. Go to most government agency websites, they'll have some message pinned to their homepage complaining about radical Democrats shutting down the government. If any previous administration had utilized government agencies to do something so partisan, it would have been a massive scandal. But for this administration, it's just the norm. The truth about the government shutdown is that it's been shut down for 2 weeks because Republicans don't want to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, instead preferring that millions of Americans have to pay thousands more each year just to pay for their health insurance. Of course, many of us can't pay thousands each year for our health insurance, and many people are going to lose it entirely. I have a Medicaid plan, and anytime I've heard news about the U.S. budget this past year, I've gotten a sick feeling in the pit of my gut. Because I never know if I'm going to still have health insurance after the current news cycle. I, my friends, and people like me across the country have to live in fear for their livelihoods. And for what? So that a bunch of billionaires can line their pockets with more money?
No!
So that Trump can be even more of an authoritarian?
No!
This administration and the people that support it in the government spend more time coercing institutions to do what they want, cutting our safety nets, spend more time destroying our economy than they spend trying to help Americans. Our government hates us. So yeah, it's no wonder we're having a second No Kings protest. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say we're going to have a whole hell of a lot more unless something changes.
Yeah!
While we're on the topic of having more protests, I want you to think about something. And obviously we're all here today because the last No Kings protest wasn't enough. We're here today because the growing authoritarianism in our country and those in power didn't listen to us last time. Now, you don't have to answer this question out loud, but I want you to think about this. What is the point of having a protest? Obviously, I'm in favor of having protests, otherwise I wouldn't be here today, but really, how do you answer that? There's a lot of answers you could give. You could say the point of protest is to express discontent with those in power. Maybe it's to rally and mobilize people against something. Clearly, we're rallied and mobilized. Maybe you think the point is to force those in power to act differently. Well, I want you to consider the fact that there are counter-protesters to this protest. There are counter-protesters to No Kings protests all over the country.
Boo!
Are any of those counter-protesters going to make you ignore the rampant authoritarianism in our government?
No!
Hell yeah. And that is going to be... It is very easy to ignore counter-protesters. It's very easy to ignore protesters, especially when you're sitting cushy in the White House. And I want to reiterate that this protest is a very good thing, and every one of you should be proud that you're here and speaking out against American fascism. But I also want you to consider what purpose protests serve. Protests are just one of many tools. On their own, they do very little. They have to be frequent and unrelenting. They have to be supported and backed by strong grassroots movements.
Yeah!
Supported by politicians at every level of government. They need to exist alongside strong mutual aid networks. They need to be accompanied by actions that make those in power pay attention.
Yeah!
The labor movement, the movement that gave us an 8-hour workday, a minimum wage, and basic safety regulations, was backed by strikes and strong unions. The civil rights movement was accompanied by sit-ins and mutual aid networks. No movement succeeds on protests alone. Politics is a constant, involved political process. It never stops, and no one is asking you to dedicate your entire life to politics. Everyone experiences burnout and needs to take breaks. I go through that myself, but what I want to impress upon you is that politics is more than just going to the polls and going to a few protests every year. Those things help. They are invaluable, but on their own, they will not stop fascism. The issues we are facing in our country today did not start with Donald Trump, and they will not stop with Donald Trump. The economic policies of the Republicans can be traced all the way back to Ronald Reagan and his theory of trickle-down economics. ICE, the agency that Trump is using to terrorize the American people, was created after 9/11 during the Bush administration. MAGA has been a movement in the making for decades. It will not stop if a Democrat is elected in the next national election. It would not stop if Donald Trump were to have an aneurysm tomorrow. It will continue to exist past Trump, and it will exist well into the next several election cycles, and it needs to be resisted at every stage of politics. Just because you do not take interest in politics does not mean that politics will not take an interest in you. I can assure you that those in favor of authoritarianism are very interested in politics. And if you don't get involved in your community, they will. Unless we can organize, meet the moment, and resist them, they will never stop. Do not let that dissuade you. You are more powerful than you know. Progressive, anti-authoritarian, and anti-fascist policies are popular. Anyone in this crowd has what it takes to run for local office and to help their community. If you choose to do so, there are countless people willing to support you. Just look around you. We can overcome corporate greed together, we can overcome corruption together, and we can overcome fascism together. When we organize, we win. So last question. Will you organize?
Yeah!